Sure. All right. Brandon, alcoholic.
Brandon.
It's really good to be here with you guys. Phil just mentioned the home group, and this has become very much my home group over the last 4, almost 5 years. This meeting saved my life. I'm going to kind of work backwards here just a little bit. I came in here and I hadn't been to a meeting in probably, 2.5, almost 3 years. At the time I was probably 7 or 8 years, 8 years sober. And I experienced what we call an emotional relapse, where I got so disconnected from gentlemen like you in rooms like this, where I've learned how to be a man, how to be a father, how to be an employee, how to be a husband, all of that. I disconnected from that. And I was completely blind to it. And I'm leading with this because it's really important, for me, at least, to hear. I thought I was doing all the right things in life. I was building a really good career. My wife and I had just had our first kid. We were pretty happily married. And things were going well. And for me, it's when things are going well that I start to take credit and I start to not pray as much, not lean into my higher power, not pick up the phone and call you guys. And one thing led to another, right? Like we moved out here, I didn't get plugged into a home group. And a couple years later, there I am having an affair. And for me, there's we all have that list of things that we're just not going to do in life. And I certainly checked off all of those things in my active alcoholism and addiction. And then I thought, I'm better now. I've learned how to be a good person. I don't have to worry about being that same selfish asshole anymore. And I didn't even see it coming. And before you knew it, there I was, the worst version of myself that I could imagine at the time. I was ready to walk out on my kids, my wife, everything. Because I'd become so selfish and self-centered and dishonest again that that's just who I was. I was sicker probably than I ever was in my active alcoholism. And my wife did probably the worst thing imaginable, and she forgave me, which was way harder. and I couldn't bring myself to not take that and do something with it. So I was faced with that same kind of pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization that we experience when we hit our bottoms often, sometimes more often than just a bottom. And I was faced with that same feeling. And this time I didn't have the buffer of booze or dope. I felt it, and it's awful. So I went on the website, I found this meeting, and I showed up 2 days later and ratted myself out immediately because that's what I was taught to do. And I know the weight that comes off of you. I know the freedom that comes in honesty in these rooms. And fortunately, I was able to remember that and hang on to that and come in here and be honest with you guys. And you guys embraced me like I had been here for my entire sobriety already. This room truly is just like the Stag that I got sober in. So thank you guys for being here for that and for walking through the last few years with me. And I'm truly, truly grateful for you guys. I'm really going to miss you guys. I'm going to miss you guys a lot. If you don't know, I'm moving in less than 2 weeks to Washington. Hopefully we still keep the Zoom thing up, but if not, then I will carry the spirit of this meeting to another. I didn't think I was going to get emotional at all, but I was wrong.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's all right. Man, my story is just like anybody else's in here. Fairly dysfunctional family, alcoholism all over the place, Al-Anon all over the place. That's what I knew growing up. So as soon as shit got uncomfortable, I had some inkling of where to go. And I broke into the neighbor's house, and they had this display case of little shot bottles from all over the world, and I just drank them all. I think I was 7 or 8. That was my first drink. But, high school was probably the same as a lot of yours. I played sports. I was a decent student. I was, all of the cliques I was a part of because I was a chameleon, right? I just wanted to feel accepted no matter where I was at. So I would act how whatever group wanted me to act, and that was that. Partying quickly consumed my life. No more sports. Not a great student, etc. The whole thing, right? Things progressed pretty quickly. I thought I met her. She ran a dispensary in LA before it was legal, and I was like 20, so it was perfect. That didn't last because my disease continued to progress. I became more of an asshole, more dishonest, more selfish. Fast forward a couple years, and you can imagine those years, it just gets worse. You end up just getting loaded in your room alone. No more like social drinking, no more party doping, like nothing. I was just in my house, I was just getting loaded. And if I didn't have it, then I was doing something shady to get it. And that was pretty much life. My dad and I owned a business together around this time, and I thought it'd be a good idea to detox myself, which you shouldn't do, by the way. Talk to a doctor. So on like the second day of that, I walked into our business, and I was not in a good place, and he said something to me, and I'd like swiped his computer off his desk and called him a fat piece of shit and whatever, and we started fighting, and we'd had our altercations in life, but never like physical fist fighting. And I say this in no way to gloat, this is just what happened. Like, we owned a mattress store, and so I ended up throwing him in between two mattresses, and he got stuck. And so I jumped over on top of him, and I was gonna punch him. And this is where my life changed. My arm was back like this, like straight out of a movie, and something stopped me from hitting him. And what happened was, my higher power allowed me for just a brief second, a moment, to see the situation through my dad's eyes. And my dad's one of us. I think he was sober at the time, he's been off and on, but I got to feel what he felt in that moment. And it was fear, like horrible gripping fear. And it wasn't because we were in a fight, it was because here's his oldest son, who he knows exactly like what I'm about, because he is me. And he's completely powerless over it. And as a father, he was just gripped with fear. And I got to feel that for just a moment. And it gave me just enough willingness to the next day get dropped off at a rehab. So I did my rehab. I was there for, 60 days. Finished up my 4th step by the time I left there, because that's what the rehab said you had to do to leave well. And so not because I wanted to change or learn anything about myself or wanted to do your steps, but because I wanted to be the standout kid at rehab and get the attention and the counselor saying, hey, good job, man. And I wanted the guy in the bunk next to me to be like, hey, man, I look up to you. Like, I need that, right? I'm so full of self-doubt and fear left to my own devices that's like the theme of my life is I need you to tell me that I'm enough, right? And so I did my steps. The beauty of the steps I found over the years is that it doesn't matter why I did them. I did them relatively honestly for being, 30, 60 days sober. And something happened. Like I did my 3rd step in the middle of the rehab, surrounded by like 100 guys. And my sponsor made me get down on my knees by a fountain, and we said the 3rd step prayer together. That was the first time that I've ever honestly, like, between myself and my higher power, prayed in front of other people. Because I was raised in church. I was super resentful at the idea of doing that, right? I don't want to pray in front of other people or with you to some God that I don't even really believe in. Like, it was the first time that I had done that, and there was such a freedom in that. Instantly after, like, that feeling of caring what you thought about me and needing that disappeared. Because I had what I needed, right? We've maybe heard the expression a God-shaped hole is something that we experience as alcoholics, and that was immediately filled after that prayer for me. Getting to see, who I am underneath through the 4th step, right? Like, everything for me reverts back to fear. Everything. And that fear comes from a disconnect with my higher power, which is a part of alcoholism. That's the nature of our disease. I obsess about it, I'm allergic to it, and it separates me from my higher power. And that's what it does. And it will fucking kill me. So I get out of rehab, continue to do the steps. 5th step I did on a golf course, so no one could hear us. But again, I'm, still a newcomer at the time, not super honest yet. And I lied to my sponsor about my 5th step because we did my 4th step together. So he already knew all the stuff, and I didn't have any reservations about writing anything down. So what was left? And I had like heard, the 5th step was super weighty, and it was always like, you killed this guy, or, oh, you like, did something horrible. And I didn't have anything. Like, I was 21 at the time when I got sober. Like, I didn't do anything super bad yet. And so I made some shit up because I felt less than. I didn't feel qualified enough. And, I don't remember exactly what it was. It was like I sold some kid bad acid and he died or something. Just really stupid stuff, right? Like, why would I say that? But I said it because whatever part of me and my disease wasn't treated yet was still there, and it wasn't treated yet. And I've gotten to see that now. I got to make amends, like, on the back 9 of the golf course because I couldn't hold on to it forever. And, we continue working through the steps. 6 and 7 were crucial for me. The 12-step describes that as a step that separates the men from the boys. And for me, that's where I saw the most change in my daily behaviors. I got to revert back to the 4th step and make a list of all of my actions, right? And it was simple, super simple, because I couldn't make it too complicated or I wouldn't want to do it. So the old action would have been viewing women as sexual objects, and that's it. Contrary action is the important part, the other side of the page. Contrary action was, don't objectify women, treat them like people, because they are. And it's that simple, and it has to be that simple. And I made this like 15-page checklist of actions that I used to do and the contrary action. And for like 2 months, my instruction from my sponsor then was to put a check mark on either side of every one throughout the day. Or like when I did a 10th at the end of the day and reviewed my conduct. Did I do this? Did I do that? And so I had proof. Like, I like stats, right? I'm a baseball guy. Like, I like seeing the numbers, and the numbers showed me that my actions change over time because I'm aware of them, because of this paper, and because of being in rooms like this. And now we're back to where I started. A few years after that, I was super involved in young people AA because I was young when I got sober. We did huge events. Was that 13?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Okay. I was super involved in young people AA. Put on a lot of events because it's really hard to know what to do for fun when you're 21 and getting sober, because that's all I knew was partying. And so we got to do a lot of really cool stuff in sobriety in my first few years sober. And then, a couple years later, I met my wife, and then that brings us to the initial story, and now we're back here. So all that to say, what we have is a daily reprieve based on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. That comes straight out of our book. What that means for me in my life today is, it doesn't matter how much gold shit that I have. It doesn't matter what kind of car I drive, how big my house is, what's my bank account, what's my job, how much attention I get from women at work. Like, none of that shit matters at all without me reaching out to my higher power first thing in the morning and trying to get this mess of a human out of the way so that my higher power can maybe use me in a productive way for the day. And that's what sobriety looks like now, is, God, do with me what you will today. Let me be of service to somebody so that I'm not just super selfish all day long. Be careful what you pray for, because you will get it. Sponsorship has always been a huge part of my sobriety. Short of like the birth of my children, my own moment of clarity, and maybe my wedding, like nothing in my life is more fulfilling than seeing another man I'm taking through the steps experience the pot while working his steps, right? To see like, oh my God, this is why I did what I did. Now it makes sense, and to move on and grow. And that's what we're about in here, is growing. I love Alcoholics Anonymous so much. It's given me purpose when I didn't think that I had any. It's given me friendship when I had no idea what that really looked like. It's given me mentorship. I think that's one of the big positives of getting into AA when you're younger. For a long time, if I went to a non-young people meeting, a regular meeting, I was the youngest guy in there. And it was super important that I listened to every dude in that room that was either older than me or had more time than me. And I try and keep that as a principle in meetings, no matter how many years I get sober. Like, I'm going to ask Monty about how to be a good husband and a good father, right? I'm going to ask Tom how to properly care for my house and my car and how to hunt, and I'm going to talk to Patch about God knows what. Jokes. I found a family in this room is what I'm saying. And if you're like me, if you drank like me, and you felt alone in a room of 100 people, you don't have to feel alone anymore. Welcome home. We love you. I love you. I'm glad you're here. And thanks for being here.